Good morning. Today I'm going to do a quick lecture on the immune system, and I'm going to divide our immune system studies into two separate lectures because there are two aspects or two categories of your immune response. There is the non-specific or innate immune response and the specific or adaptive response, and they are different in such a great degree that I think it'll be beneficial for you to think of them as two separate systems. So today's lecture will be on the specific or rather the non-specific and the innate immune response. And the next lecture tomorrow or Monday or whenever you get to see it will be on the adaptive immune response. So let's just take a look back here and think about what is meant when I say the immune system or what a system is. And when we look at the biology of organisms, whether we're talking about the biology of plants or we're talking about the biology of animals, we can think of the body as having levels of organization. So I'm going to take this time to just teach you a side topic, and that is this concept that our body is a multicellular organism. Plant bodies are multicellular organisms. Fungi are multicellular organisms. And these multicellular organisms can be thought of as having increasing complexity. And that increasing complexity stems from how things are structured. So we know that life is cellular, and that when a group of cells, often similar types of cells, are working together, we define them as having tissues. So if you talk about muscle tissue, you can have smooth muscle tissue, and that's the tissue that makes up organs. You have skeletal muscle tissue, that's the muscle tissue that makes up muscles that move your bones. And when we have groups of different types of muscle tissues working together to have a common function, we call those things organs. And when we think about what an organ is, it has some key function to the organism. And just like animals, plants can have organs. We could think of the leaf as an organ, or their system of tubes, phloem and xylem, as organs. Just like we have organs like the stomach and the heart and the intestine and the lungs and so on. Well, if a bunch of organs work together for some common purpose, let's say digest food, then we talk about this as an organ system. But it's kind of interesting to note that some organs within one organ system can be important to another organ system. For instance, there's a structure buried here called the pancreas, which is really important in digesting food, and so it's part of your digestive system. But that pancreas is also super important in secreting hormones and is part of your endocrine system. And that brings me to why I am talking about system biology right now, and that is because we are learning about the immune system, and the immune system actually has lots of organs and organ systems that participate together to give you an immune response. For instance, your bones are where immune system cells for adaptive immunity mature. So your skeletal system is actually important to your immune system. And you have a thymus gland, and your thymus gland, which is part of your endocrine system, is where T cells mature. And your circulatory system is responsible for distributing immune system cells. And then you have a lymphatic system, which is a second circulatory system in your body that recollects water from tissues like your feet and your hands. So like if your lymphatic system is struggling, you might end up with puffy fingers or puffy feet. It recollects water and channels that back into your circulatory system, but it's also the pathway that white blood cells travel. It's where you have your lymph nodes, where white blood cells go to commit suicide and destroy pathogens. So as we think about the immune system, and you'll note that if you look at my series of systems, integumentary, skeletal, muscular, nervous, circulatory, endocrine, lymphatic, digestive, respiratory, urinary, reproductive, immune system's not even there, and that's because the immune system is met by so many of these other systems. Well, we are interested today in the innate immune system, and I really don't have a ton to say about this, but I will say a few things that might be helpful as you think about it. The function of the innate immune system is to combat all pathogens. Its intent is to keep the outside outside and protect the inside. The inside of your body is relatively sterile, bacteria-free, and when it does not become sterile or bacteria-free, we say that it has become septic. If you were to perforate your bowel, let's say by having an appendix rupture, what will have happened is all of the bacteria and fungus that are in your intestinal tract will then have access to the nutrients that are your body, those sterile tissues, and they will make you extremely sick. You'll get a high fever, an infection, and that can lead to death. People die of sepsis all the time. Well, your immune system's job is to combat pathogens, and the two basic ways is to attack all pathogens or to target specific pathogens. And your adaptive immune response adapts to a specific pathogen, whereas your non-specific innate immune response tries to target all pathogens. So let's think about the key parts of your innate immune system, and we did talk a little bit about this already, but there's nothing wrong with a little redundancy. And so things to think about: skin, mucus, hairs. All of this is part of your non-specific. So is sweat, because sweat releases enzymes that cause bacterial cells to burst. Stomach enzymes. You often take in bacteria in your food, and your stomach enzymes are pretty effective at destroying those bacteria and preventing them from causing infections in your intestinal tract. So all of these things are part of your non-specific response. However, you need to know that you actually have a non-specific response to viruses. And this non-specific response to viruses is due to a chemical called interferon. And what happens is, if you have a cell, so there's one of your cells, and that cell got infected with a virus particle. So now all the blue dots are viruses that have multiplied in your cell, and your cell has become a virus production factory. This is bad. This is what happens when you get a common cold. Viruses just divide in those cells that line your respiratory tract. Well, what's going to happen? The virus is going to use up all of your cellular resources, and the population of the virus is going to get so great that that cell is going to explode. It'll be a silent explosion, and all these viruses are going to leak out, and then they're going to look for new respiratory cells. Well, luckily for you, that cell, in a last-ditch effort to warn the other cells and try to kill some of these viruses, it's going to secrete this chemical we call interferon. And interferon interrupts the ability of a virus to invade other cells. It's not a perfect system, but it does something. It helps initiate that immune response, and it is targeted to all viruses. So again, it's part of that innate immune response. Now, there is another part of your immune system that is innate that involves cells, and it involves a type of cell called macrophages. And macrophages are a type of phagocytic white blood cell And what a phagocytic white blood cell is a cell that looks sort of like an amoeba, and you have them, and so you know macrophages means a big eater. And they are big cells that like to eat stuff, and what they do is they swim around in your bloodstream looking, they're kind of like your sentries, they're on guard for any invaders, and if they happen to encounter a bacteria, they will send out parts of their cell membrane in structures that we call pseudopods, which basically mean false feet, and they will surround the bacteria with the membrane, creating a vacuole, and then they will use the power of their lysozymes to dump enzymes into that vacuole, digest the bacteria, and very often these macrophages will actually go and wall themselves up and commit suicide and kill themselves and kill the bacteria, or they'll go to your lymph nodes and do some of that work. So these white blood cells are part of your non-specific immune response, and they are looking for any type of pathogen. So they are not targeting different pathogens with different antigens, they are targeting all pathogens. So I'd like to share with you kind of a subset of the response that is linked to your non-specific immune system and show you how the whole thing might work together. And what you are seeing here is called the inflammatory response. And the inflammatory response, among other things, is also responsible for giving you fevers when you are having some kind of infection. A fever is an immune system response that often activates your immune system cells and suppresses the reproduction of some of the invading cells in your body. Well, you're looking at a simple example of an inflammatory response, and this is how your immune system might respond to a splinter or a zit. And what basically happens is the following. You get a cut in your skin, or a pore is open in your skin, and that pore allows bacteria to invade, and those bacteria actually start to disrupt the cells that are in your environment, and the disruption of those cells causes the release of a chemical. This is a chemical signal. This chemical signal, interleukin-2, then kind of causes your blood vessels to become a little leaky. So the little pores between blood vessels sort of open up just a little bit. And what those leaky blood vessels do is they allow macrophages, remember those guys are big eaters, they they allow the macrophages to leak out of the blood vessels, and they go into the tissues, and the cell signals are like, hey, we've got a problem here. Somebody get the bacteria out. And sure enough, those macrophages attack like an army, and they gobble up all of the bacteria that are in there. And then very often what these macrophages will do is they'll send other signals out. And in doing those other signals, they wall off the area. And when they wall off the area, what happens is those macrophages kind of digest those bacteria, and then they'll commit suicide. And they'll protect your body from the bacteria, and they'll kill the bacteria, and their suicide results in pus. I think I had said that the signal molecule was interleukin-2. That's not the signal molecule I meant to say. I meant to say histamine. Histamine is the key signal molecule here that causes your blood vessels to become leaky. And you might be familiar with a histamine response, like when you get an allergic response and your eyes get puffy and you start making tears. That is because histamine has been released, and that's what's kind of causing your blood vessels to get leaky and give you puffy eyes. And your response to dealing with a histamine problem is to take an antihistamine like Benadryl, which stops this inflammatory response. Final point about the inflammatory response: very often in this process we might get a localized increase in temperature. And that increase in temperature, again, activates those white blood cells and suppresses the bacteria's activity and helps facilitate your immune response to the infection. Well, that's it. That is our talk about the general, non-specific, or innate immune response. Stay tuned for lecture number 2 on the adaptive immune response, which you'll get to see tomorrow. All right. Hopefully I can shut us off today.